designers, welcome back to the channel where creativity meets simplicity. My name is Emmanuel, and today we are diving into another exciting graphic design tutorial that will help you level up your design skills right from your PC, right from your phone. So let's get started. So today I'm going to be teaching us the 8 essential elements of graphic design. So graphic design um, a combination of the elements and the principles of graphic design. The elements and the principles are the foundational factors. The elements and the principles of graphic design are the basics of graphic design. If you want to become an expert in graphic design, you want your designs to look professional, you need to pay attention to the elements and the principles of graphic design. So, just like I would say, what are the elements of graphic design? The elements of graphic design uh, are the things we use, the things that makes up our design, the things that makes up our design, the things that we use to design, or the things that makes up our design. What are the principles? The principles are the how to. The principles helps us to apply the the elements effectively. The principles helps us to apply the elements effectively. So it shows us how to combine and use the elements of graphic design. That's what the principle does. So we're going to be exploring the elements of graphic design, and then if we have enough time, we are going to move to the principles of graphic design also. So the elements of graphic design, bringing balance to your design is an art and a science. So when you master these principles to create visual communication. So I'm going to show you the elements and how to apply them, how to use them. So the first element we have here is line. Line is described as a building block of design. Lines can be continuous or broken, straight or curved, smooth or zigzagged, and beyond, and are used for more than just outlines and dividing up content. For example, they can convey movement or tie together your composition. So line can be used to create movement, you can use it to guide the eyes of the viewers. You can use it to guide the eyes of the viewers, pointing to a direction. You understand? So one of the things that makes you a good student, is not just to learn in the class alone. If all you do as a student is just to learn in the class, and then you don't go back to do you don't go back to do your research, you're not going to be you'll not be a very good student actually. So what makes you a good student and a serious student is that after you learn a particular thing, you still go back and dive deep into that thing, still go back and research more. From there, you're going to have questions to ask. Yes, because your teacher actually will not teach you everything. Most times, the teacher will bring you to awareness of certain things. You have a responsibility to go back and do further research and come back with questions. Yes. So just like lines, although in the next classes that are coming up, not now, I'm going to tell you more about lines. But before then, you can do your own research. You can do your own research. I don't want the video to be so long. As a serious student of graphic design, someone that wants to learn and master the art of graphic design, you need to know how to do research on your own. I'm always there to answer your questions. So make sure you research more on these elements. Make sure you research more on these elements so you understand them. If you have any questions as you do your research, you can come back and ask in the comment section. I'll reply you. So I don't want the video to be very long. So now we have line as the first element. Line can be used to create connection between two shapes in your design. You can have one shape here, have another shape at the other side, and use a line to create a connection between the two of them, pointing that this particular shape on the left is connected to the shape on the right. So just like a flow chart for some of you that doesn't know what a flow chart is, you go to Google, search for flow chart. You see how it works with lines. So that's the first one. So we have different types of lines. We have straight lines, curved lines, smooth lines, zigzag lines, and then each lines have has a meaning. Each line, each types of line, they have their specific meaning. You don't just use lines because it's there, or you can draw a zigzag line. No, each of them has a specific meaning, a kind of feeling that it evoke. So like the zigzag line communicates an emotion or a feeling of energy, an energetic feeling. So if you should look at, so those of you that watch movies, if you check the Flash logo, you find out that is zigzagged. It's a zigzag um, line kind of logo. So it communicates an energetic feeling, an energetic feeling. You understand? So you can do your own personal research on each of these lines so that you know the ones you are using. Whenever you want to create a logo, you want to create a design, and you want to make use of a particular line, you should know the meaning of that line and the kind of emotion it's going to evoke. Because design is storytelling, and every design you do is problem solving. There is a communication you are trying to make, and then when people look at your design, each element you use in the design will determine the kind of emotion or the way they will perceive your design, or how they will understand your design to be. So we should be careful about the elements we use and the types of elements we use. So in case of lines, you should know the kind of lines you are using, because each types of lines, they have the kind of emotions they evoke, and they have their feelings, the kind of feelings it evoke when people see them. Just like I make mention of the zigzag line, it communicates an energetic feeling. So let's proceed. You do your research on that, do your further research on that. Although I'll talk about it in other classes, but do your personal research. If you have questions, drop it on the comment section. So next element we have here is shape. Shape is another element of graphic design. So usually found in nature and drawn freehand. When you are making your own shapes or designing a logo, don't forget to lean on your software to make sure the elements are properly aligned and symmetrical. So shapes, shapes, shapes is another element of design, and we have different types of shape, just as we have different types of lines. We have different types of shapes. So these are the things that makes up your designs. The element makes up your design. So when you are designing, many times you make use of shapes, you make use of lines, and so on. So next element we have here is form, and then for shapes, just like I say, do further research on it. I'll see explain all this detailedly in other classes. But before then, make your own further studies on this. Make your own research on this. Check for types of shapes, because shape also has its the kind of feeling it evoke also, just like lines. Yes, there's a kind of feeling straight line evoke. There's a kind of feeling curved line evokes. Yes, there's a kind of feeling zigzag line evokes. So just like when you see the love shape, you see when you see a love shape, what comes into your mind is love. What comes to your mind, uh, relationship. What comes to your mind, you get. So there's each shape has the kind of feeling it evokes. So depending on what your design is trying to communicate, that's what we determine the kind of shape you will use. Yes. So do further studies on that. Drop your questions in the comment section also. So next element we have is form. Making your shape three-dimensional gives it form. So when you see a design that has three-dimensional shapes or three-dimensional objects, those are forms. When your designs or when the object in your designs or the element has three-dimensional form, that's form. So when it's three-dimensional, it's a form. If your design has objects that are three-dimensional, that's called a form. So it can be an image, it can be a shape, it can be a line also that is three-dimensional. That's a form in your design. Understand? So you can have organic or geometric forms, and these create a very different impact. Geometric forms tend to convey order and can seem sterile, while organic forms feel more natural. So the next element we have is texture. So the surface quality of your design is called texture. The surface quality, like how hard the surface of your design is and how smooth it is. Yes. So there are many ways to go about adding texture in graphic design. For making your own brushes to give textures to lines, to drawing your own patterns. You can use patterns to create a texture in your design. You can use lines. You can draw lines. You can draw lines and use it to create texture in your design. You can use brushes to create texture in your designs. Yes. So you can do repeated lines, or repeated straight lines, repeated curved lines, repeated zigzag lines to create texture in your designs. So some designs they have smooth surface, while some designs they have hard surface or rough surface. So depending on the kind of design you are doing, and always remember that your designs is a communication system. So each design has a message it's trying to communicate. So that is going to determine the kind of surface you are going to use for the design. Whether it's going to be smooth, whether it's going to be textured, whether it's going to be rough. It all depends on the kind of information you are trying to pass to your audience. Yes. So take note of that. So okay. So you need to think about positive space, the focus of the design. Yes. Negative space, the background. While creating your assets, you can be really creative with this. It's possible to use positive space in a way that recedes your eyes, track down the design, or to draw the eye toward the shape in the background with negative space. Okay. Wow, wow, that's nice. So now these are the These are the elements of graphic design. These are the elements of graphic design. So I've talked about line, talked about form, talked about shape. We are talking about texture. Yes, how smooth or how rough your surface, the surface of your design is. So the next one is space. Is space. One of the elements of graphic design is space. One of the things you that makes up your design is space. One of the things that makes up your design is space. So the area in which art is organized, the area around, within, or between images, objects, or elements. Now there are two types of space in graphic design. We have the positive space and then we have the negative space. So the positive space is the space that is being occupied with um, your active design element. The space that is being occupied by your element in your design, the active element like your shapes, the lines, the typography, the imagery. So the place where you placed your text, the place where you put your shape, and the place where you drew your line, all those spaces are called positive space. Now the negative space is the opposite. The negative spaces are the spaces that there is no element on it. The negative spaces is the background of your design. The place that is void of any design element. That there is no text there, there is no shape there, there is no line there. Yes. So the negative space is just like, I would say, a ventilation for your design. So as a professional designer, you are not supposed to design without a positive space and then a negative space. Yeah, you're supposed to create balance. We'll talk about balance is one of the principles of graphic design. So we'll talk about it when we get to the principles. So you're supposed to make sure there is enough negative space and proper use of a positive space. Yes. So in creating your designs from scratch, make sure there is enough negative space. Negative spaces is spaces around your document that is void of element, that is void of text, that is void of shape, that is void of lines. It's just plain, showing the background of your design. So the next element, the next thing that makes up a design is color. Is color. Color is one thing that makes up the design. In other classes, I will show you about color theory. Yes, color theory, how color works, how to combine colors, types of colors that we have. Because basically we have primary, secondary, and then tertiary colors. So we'll talk about how to combine colors in other classes. So make sure you subscribe to this channel so that you will be updated with all our tutorials, all the tutorials that are coming. Make sure you put on the notification so that you won't miss any tutorial that is coming. So I'll talk about colors in other classes. In the next class, I'll talk about colors, how to combine colors, color theory, and all that. We'll also talk about typography, and we'll talk about lines. We'll talk about each of these elements detailedly. So make sure you follow up every class. So the next thing that makes up your design, next element that makes up your design is typography. So typography is the way. Typography actually is your it's made up of your text, your typeface, your text in your design. Typography is referring to the text in your design, the write-up, the text, the way your words are arranged on the page, and the choice of typeface to make text legible and appealing. So the last element that makes up a design is imagery. The images you use, the selection and placement of visual elements on the page, including icons, photos, and graphics. So images, the kind of image you use. image of a car, image of fire, and all that. So those are the things that makes up your design. Don't forget line, shapes, form, which is three-dimensional objects, and images, texture, space, color, typography, and imagery. So let's talk about so many designs in typography. Many designs include some kind of copy of them, which means typography is another basic element of graphic design that you need to understand. It can be a challenge to get the balance between setting the tone with a stylized font and using something that everyone can digest. When it comes to picking fonts, headers will usually call for a display typeface. So I'll be teaching you about typeface, typography in detail in next classes. The next classes. So we have what we call display fonts. Yes, we have what we call display font. Display font are font that we use for titles, like your headings in your design. You have display fonts. There are different types of fonts. We have display fonts. We have the sans, the serif fonts, and we have the sans fonts. So we'll talk about that in the next classes. So don't forget line, shape, form, texture, space, color, typography, and imagery. Those are the things that makes up your design. Those are the elements of graphic design. So before the next classes, make sure you do your further studies. Check up on each of these elements and drop your feedback, drop your questions in the comment section. So the next we are going to be moving to the principles of graphic design. So stay with me.